So let me pull up a couple of slides, and I'll be joined later on by our solution architect and director, Herman, who's going to explain a few of the more intricate details of the new release. So if you're not aware of it, NetSuite has 2 releases a year. So if you're a NetSuite client, you're probably aware that twice a year you log on and you see a sign that says, well, welcome to your new release. If you're not a NetSuite customer, then it's actually really important to know, because when you invest in NetSuite, you automatically get 2 free upgrades a year with lots of new functionality that you can take advantage of. If you've worked with ERP in the past, you know that was often a lot of work to go through a new release process. But with the cloud technology, it is literally instantaneous. But what's important, and what a lot of clients don't realize, is that you actually have to take a little bit of time and pay attention to what's in the new release and decide what is useful for your business, because everyone's got a different business model and everyone will use it slightly differently. So there's 2 releases a year, and we're into the 2nd release phase now, which happens in August, September, and October, depending on where you are in the NetSuite cycle. So again, everyone gets the same release, everyone's on the same platform, and it usually touches all different areas. So again, if you're not familiar with NetSuite, it is an enterprise resource planning solution. It's business specific, so there's solutions for individual industries, whether you're manufacturing, distribution, wholesale, retail. It covers end-to-end everything you would want to see in a business. So it's got it's multi-language, multi-currency. We've got some HR, full financials, supply chain, professional services automation, e-commerce front end, and customer relationship management. So it's all interconnected in one solution. So if we look at release 2020.2, so we don't have time to go through everything that's in the release. We would, so we're going to try to highlight a few areas that we think are very useful for clients in the Asia Pacific area. But literally the list of enhancements is 7 pages long. And you can, I will show you how to do that later on in the session, but it covers everything: accounting, admin, banking, employee, inventory, manufacturing, mobile, order management, the list here. So it's everything you would want to, everything, it's going to touch everybody really. So if they're really everybody, it keeps dinging. So, so let's jump into it. So here's the ones we want to focus on today that we think are actually quite useful based on our experience in the past with clients and generally what we see with clients in Asia. So we'll talk a little bit about consolidated invoicing, demand planning and MRP that's been revamped, Crosscharge automation, where we are on internationalization. Then I'll talk a little bit about SuiteAnalytics, which is a great tool if you're not familiar with it. And then we'll show you how to access the release preview if you want to take a look at some of the more detail and understand what's behind the scenes a little bit. So these are the few things we'll focus on for the next probably 15, 20 minutes. So I'm going to turn it over to our solution architect, Herman.
Hi everyone, this is Herman. I'm the solution architect, as Donald mentioned. So today I want to highlight a few of the key features in 2020.2, and as you see, a key one is the invoice grouping. For those of you who are old users of NetSuite, you'll notice that previously professional services had something called consolidated invoice function, but that has been so far deprecated. And the current invoice grouping is a version of it, but it's even better because it allows you to look at an invoice, to search for invoice as an invoice group. So the pain point for a lot of customers in the Asia Pacific region, especially those in the distribution industry, is that they may receive multiple sales orders from maybe a big company like Walmart. And then for those multiple sales orders, they do a single shipment to a location in US, for example. And then that big company like Walmart, for example, would request for a single invoice for all the different sales orders that was represented by the single shipment. So with the invoice grouping function, what you're able to do is you're able to select different invoices from different sales orders, And as long as they meet the same criteria, like it's the same customer, it's the same payment terms, same currency, you can group all those invoices into a single invoice. And that reduces the complexity, reduces the payment processing time, because your customer can just make one single payment across all these previously individual invoices. So that would be a great benefit to people in the distribution business. So over here is the concept. So as you can see over here, there are sales orders. And as you know, every sales order will generate one or multiple invoices. And what you can do is you can create groups to put all those invoices into a single group. And what's terrific about this is that as long as you have not gone through the lower end payment portion yet, you can add invoices to the invoice group over time and remove invoices from the invoice group. And you can print on against an invoice group. You can receive money against the invoice group as well, almost as if it's a single invoice. Next slide.
So the amount automatically gets applied to all the individual invoices.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So over here is a good example. As you can see, here are all the invoices. And if you look on my, to the far right, you'll see a group indicator. The system automatically checks what are the invoices that can be grouped. So you can see over there, there's the first row is just one group. Then there are 2 invoices that can be grouped together. And there are 3 invoices that can be grouped together. And that's why you see 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can select on the left-hand side, you can multi-select which invoices you want to group. And on the upper right, you can see a group by PO. So for example, if a big customer was to send you multiple POs or a single PO, and you were to, because of different shipment requirements, you were going to ship it to different invoices over time, all you need to do is to check that box group by PO, and the system will automatically know that, okay, all these invoices from these sales orders have the same PO number. I'm going to group them together. So that's another option for you as well. So that's a quick summary of invoice grouping. Now I'm going to the other new feature of NetSuite in 2020.2, which is the demand planning and MRP. And I must say that this is a major change in the demand planning module. You'll notice for users who used to use demand planning, the planning method used to be called time phase. This time is officially called MRP because it's really an MRP now. It allows you to do have your own simulation planning. You can, through the planning workbench, you can see the details on the raw materials, assemblies, and sub-assemblies, all in a single workbench, where before you had to use different reports to view your supply plan and your demand plans. Next slide. So key user benefit is you can picture how the demand orders and the corresponding supply orders are stacked up. One key point is when you go through the demand and supply workbench, you are going to see that every one of your supplies can be pegged to a demand and vice versa as well. And you can actually see alerts or recommendations from NetSuite. And those recommendations, you can have an action button to say, implement recommendation, and that would create a change order. And that change order, for example, to reschedule a work order or to cancel purchase orders, those change orders can be approved by someone higher up. And once it gets approved, then it gets implemented. So here is the architecture of the demand planning. So one key feature you'll notice is the planning repository refresh. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to take a snapshot of your current inventory, supply, and demand positions, like sales orders, purchase orders, and put it into a planning repository. And that will reduce the variability that happens during real-time operations of your system. So that's a big improvement. And then you'll notice that there is a supply plan definition. Now, every planner can set their own supply plan definition. That was something that NetSuite did not have before. So it's a great function because it allows different planners to plan their item groups to have their own planning rules and run the simulation against a materials requirement planning engine. So that issue of conflicts will not arrive that much. The supply planning engine will happen as in all MRP systems where they run the supply plan, they blow up the bill of materials and calculate the lead times. And the results of the MRP run is going to be viewable through the planning workbench. So in the planning workbench, as you can see the results of your demand, supply. You can see exceptions, and you can view the recommended actions as well. And those recommended actions would be in the form of request to reschedule, request to pull in, pull out supply. And what you can do is you can firm some of the plan orders, and you can implement some of the recommendations. So when you implement the recommendations, what you would go, there'll be a checkbox for you to multi-select the recommendations and then submit it for generation. It will first be generated as a change order, and that change order can be automatically approved, or it can go through an approval flow. And that can be used to rerun the materials requirements planning again. So over here, you can see that there are some very key significant changes to the original demand planning. So number one, previously there was no planning repository refresh. Now there's a planning repository refresh, so you can take a snapshot, and that gives you stability. Number two, previously there was no individual supply plan definitions. But now you have it, so every planner can plan on their own segment of groups of items that they're responsible for. And then previously there was no concept of change orders. Now there is a supply change order, so you can go through a process where you can have a higher up approve the change order before it gets implemented. And implemented change orders could be a purchase order, it could be a work order, and it could be a change in the schedule. And then, yep, so those are the key things for demand planning. Next one is Crosscharge, and this is something that would be great for accountants. And the benefit of this is there'll be fewer intercompany transactions, automated posting and maintenance, so the accountants doesn't have to do that themselves, and the system helps you match and reconcile. For customers, they are in the one world module. Usually, what happens is you have two companies in possibly different countries, and the way it used to happen is your one subsidiary would issue a purchase order to another subsidiary, and that subsidiary has to generate a sales order, and then from the sales order do an item fulfillment. Then the destination subsidiary has to do an item receipt, and then issues a intercompany sales invoice and intercompany vendor bill between them. And recently, I think it's 2019 version, there was this concept of a cross-subsidiary fulfillment. So that's where in the intercompany framework on the right, that's a cross-subsidiary fulfillment where, sorry, I should say intercompany cross-subsidiary fulfillment, where the destination office just issues a sales order and the warehouse can directly fulfill to the customer. Or, yep, and then a sales invoice is generated from the destination office to the customer. That was 2019. But if you look at the cross-charge automation at the bottom, in the rectangle, dotted rectangle, those cross-charge, previously what you needed to do was at the end of a period, you would have your accountant do a safe search, run through all the different fulfillments by the warehouse and the invoices, and then calculate what's the right journal entries to post to each other. So in the new enhancement, the system does it automatically for you without the need for an accountant to run the safe search and do all those calculations. So over here, as you can see, as part of your period close, there's a new action bar there called Generate Intercompany Cross-Charge. So when you run that action, what's going to happen is in the background, the system does all the calculations and generates the cross-charge journal entries. I cannot emphasize enough how much of a time saving this would give accountants who used to have to do this manually themselves.
A lot of our clients in Asia are, I mean, they're not just here, they're all over Asia and generally actually in the world, but every release there's enhancements on internationalization and tax. And actually the NetSuite International Product Development Team head is based here in Hong Kong. So we often have an insight into what's going to happen before it gets released. But, oops, start my video. In this release, they've Crosscharge is part of the international release. There's a transaction pairing, there's improved translations. They're always improving the translations, and they're constantly improving the taxation, the way the taxation works. So one of the benefits, obviously NetSuite, Oracle NetSuite, it's a large company. So one of the benefits for clients is that they keep up to date on what the tax laws and tax requirements are. And those generally pretty quickly find their way into the system, saving clients a lot of time and having to do special reports and customizations and stuff like that. So we're not going to go through each of these, but there are always India updates. There recently been UK updates, Canada updates. So it's constantly happening. If there is something that you need from an international perspective that you don't see in NetSuite, please reach out to us, because we do work with their product development team, and they can usually give us an update pretty quickly on when something will be released. For example, I know in the next month or so, there'll be updates to the Philippines localizations, which is actually quite important. And there will be more India ones as well. So just let us know if you see something you think is missing, and we can probably get you an answer on when it will be available. So the next one is my favorite. So SuiteAnalytics. So if you haven't used SuiteAnalytics, we strongly encourage you to take a look at it, or send us an email and we can send you some material on it, or even give you a quick demo. It was released a little while ago. It's a business intelligence tool. If you just click on the analytics tab, you'll see it. Well, there are a couple of great things about it. One is it doesn't cost anything, so it's built in, so you can play around with it. They've seeded the tool with some sample workbooks, so you can play around and drill down into some of your transactions. The second benefit is you can do reporting at really the lowest level of the system. So really at a transaction level. And we've had 3 or 4 clients recently that have really started to use it heavily. So it saves a lot of money, and that you don't have to buy a separate business intelligence tool. And the data is always real time because it's pulling directly from the NetSuite database. So this is not a demo of SuiteAnalytics, but we're happy to do one for you if you're interested. But some of the changes, they're always making changes to it. So if you have used it, you'll notice that now you can have multiple data sets in one workbook. So a data set is the technical part that draws the information out of the database, and the workbook is what users use to play around with the data and slice and dice it and put it into pivot tables and things like that. Previously, you could only have one data set per workbook, so that kind of limited what you could do in a single workbook. So for example, you might want a workbook called the board reports that you just do for board reports. Now you can have a single workbook that can pull from multiple data sets, so you can have all your different board reports in a single place for the board of directors. You know, those type of people don't like to go poking around anyway. So having it in one place is good. Second thing is they're going to incorporate videos into it. So to help you learn about SuiteAnalytics, there'll be videos right into the user interface, and those will be constantly updated. So you can always have your team or your business analysts view the videos and get up to speed on what changes have been made and how it works. Just some other general stuff. If you're a power user, you can now search by system IDs. It's going to be easier to create calculated fields, which we'll show on the next slide, and just general usability improvements. So now you can have a table view can be added to your dashboard. So dashboards is another area that's actually quite powerful in NetSuite, which it's often more useful once you've been using NetSuite for a while, because then you have more data. So we often help clients develop their KPIs and their dashboards. Now you can add SuiteAnalytics table views, so detailed table views right to your dashboard along with the graphs. So you can, and you can drill down directly from there as well. And then for power users, there's improved formula writing and debugging to help you develop formulas quicker. So for example, we just did some reports for a client where they wanted to look at the gross margin calculations inside SuiteAnalytics. So we wrote some formulas to help calculate it how they want to see it. Now it's a lot easier and a lot quicker because they've added this formula builder and put some debugging tools in it. So this is an area to really keep an eye on, because it's going to be, you'll see a lot more SuiteAnalytics coming more and more in every release. So again, if you have any questions on it, just let us know. We're happy to give you an introduction. So that's kind of it for where we see the major benefits for some Asia clients. If you're interested in looking more, when you log on, depending on your dashboard, you'll probably see something like this. This says, welcome to release 2020.2. So these are some areas where you can go directly and get some information on what the details of what's in there. There's an overview, there's release notes, that's the 7 pages of additions. There's a release preview guide. So you can click on any of those and you can get more information on what's available in the release. But if you are interested in that, you can use that. You can generate, NetSuite will issue you your own release preview account. So that's your account with the functions added into it. So you can actually test the business processes you're interested in before the changes are applied to your system. So you can go in and, so for example, if you're interested in the Crosscharge feature Herman was talking about, you can actually go in and set it up using your business data, and you can test it out and see how it works before you actually do it in your production system. So the more complicated you are, the more we recommend going through a testing process before the release is issued. And NetSuite's provided some standard approaches for that as well that we can help with. So generally they recommend testing your workflows, any custom reports, queries or forms or scripts, and any web services integrations to test that before the release comes out. We have sample test plan documents that we've used that we can provide to clients. So if you're interested in help with that type of test, just let us know, and we're happy to provide some of the information on how it works and what we've done with other clients. So that's it for our kind of release preview. So again, those are the areas that we think are most useful for Asia clients. But again, I said there's 7 pages of information. So, you know, please drill down and dig into it. If you see things in there in the upcoming release that you think might be useful for your company, you know, reach out to us. We're happy to give you some more detailed advice on any specific features that might help. And most clients, you know, we understand your business pretty well, so we can kind of tell you if it's a good fit or if it's not a good fit for you. And we're happy to do that. So just give us a call or send us an email. A little more one specific. So yeah, and check out our blog is updated all the time with not just NetSuite, but other areas around business automation, and including some Workato and some RPA, robotic process software automation. So thanks everybody for joining. If you have any questions, you can chat with us now, or just send us an email and we'll get back to you.